how many of you have heard about project-based learning? PBL. Who thinks they know what it is? किसको पता है कि नहीं मुझे तो पता है. I have an idea what it's about. No? इतना भी confidence नहीं है. आपको यहाँ पे होना ही एक गवाही है that you guys are very eager to learn, that you are open-minded, right? You are ready to try something different. At the end of this event, you guys are uncomfortable. आज रात आप लोग सुकून से ना सो सके, all right? So I hope that you will experience a sense of community. ये सिर्फ एक आप ही एक मलंग या कोई, you know, you're not the only crazy person here. There's other crazy people who are on the same path as you. Gain a sense of empowerment. कि अच्छा अगर ये कर सकते तो मैं भी कर सकती हूँ. Where do we go for information? Everybody. Google. This is how predictable the answer is. Everybody knows, right? कुछ पता करना है, कोई information चाहिए. Google zindabad, right? I want to become a pilot. ठीक है, I'm a teenager. It's too late for me now, but let's pretend I'm a teenager and I want to go in the Air Force or become a pilot. Okay? Usually, you know, you go on Google. Okay, what are the requirements? कौन से programs करने हैं? कहाँ पे जाने, right? Or you can take the extra steps to actually find a pilot and interview them and talk to them and learn about their experiences and their mistakes so you don't repeat them, right? इसमें ज़्यादा काम है. Second. Right. The second one takes way more effort, right? उसमें बहुत पानी लगेगा. Even if you're really young at that time, it will be imprinted on your mind. It will have an effect on your personality forever, right? Besides Google, हमें information कहाँ से मिलती है? Tricky question. Hey, you guys are the good ones. People, yeah. Oh, okay, you guys are. Okay, no, I want the wrong answer. I was like saying, I was actually answers there. I'm in schools, right? Schools are where we get information, right? Why do we send our schools? Why do we send our kids to schools? To learn, right? To gain more knowledge. मिल जाता है, बड़े अच्छे से मिल जाता है. Information की तो कमी ही नहीं है आजकल. This is the point I'm trying to make. But, right? अगर मुझे अपने computer से सारी information मिल रही है, in, you know, like, do I really need to go to school? Right? That's the question I want you guys to have in the back of your minds. The need of the future, right? As a Muslim, well, why am I worried about risk? I don't understand. I really don't. That is something, alhamdulillah, I've never been stressed about. Because आपके concepts clear होने चाहिए ना कि अगर आपको फिक्र है अपने risk की, आपका concept आप अल्लाह ताला को पहचान नहीं सके, as he should be understood, right? Of course, effort counts. We all know that. We all know everything. That's the point of amal hi kar rahe. We're not able to apply it in real life, right? For the future, we need lifelong, engaged learners. ठीक है, जो driven हैं, जो मतलब are motivated to keep learning something new, right? We need problem solvers. Okay, कोई problem आ रही है life में. Okay, how will I use my creativity to solve it? Okay, I'm up for the challenge. मुझे stress नहीं हो रही, मुझे anxiety नहीं हो रही. You know, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and get into it, right? I'm willing to take risks. I'm willing to try to solve the problem. Something called the Golden Circle by a motivational speaker, Simon Sinek. He basically said that I can prove it to you that a leader, right? A leader can be a mother, a corporate leader, a shopkeeper, anyone, right? A leader is able to inspire action, right? Instead of manipulating. That when we want to do something, we usually start with the what, right? हमने क्या करना है, क्या हमने achieve करना है. We start with the what, but we should be starting with the why. और तभी तो कुछ meaningful नहीं है. You know, because it's all so superficial, right? So this circle says, it reminds us that we need to start with how we'll introduce ourselves. I know some of us have already introduced ourselves, right? So just keep it in your mind. You know, usually we have just some example answers. I'm a teacher, I'm a dentist, I'm an accountant, I'm a housewife, right? If somebody says they are a dentist, what does that tell us about the person? Professional, pesa, oh, dentist. Hardworking, right? बड़ा पढ़ाकू होगा अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी के ज़माने में, right? Right? Let's be honest. We get a little impressed by some titles. We do, right? बेचारी housewife. I'm also, by the way, a housewife. I proudly call myself a housewife. That's why I homeschool, because I don't want to get out of the house, right? Let's be brutally honest with ourselves. Some titles हम लोग शर्माते हैं. नहीं वो मैं ना वो मेरे ना यूनिवर्सिटी के ज़माने बड़े मैं गराज में housewife हूँ. मैं इतने अफसोस से कहते हैं ये बात. Yes, now people have changed it. जो बहुत अकलमंद हैं, they're like, oh, I'm self-employed, right? Right, but why? Not with the what, right? पिछली side पे, what do? I am a teacher, right? Why are you a teacher? Right? What if we started thinking of our roles as this? We start with the because, right? And we start explaining it to people. If enough of us do this, it will bring change, right? It will change perspective. For example, because I believe kids have potential and need guidance, I inspire children to look at the world as a set of problems they can solve. I do this through my role as a teacher. It's a mission statement. It feels important to me as a teacher saying this out loud. Oh, it's pretty important to actually. You know, I have a big job. Do this right now. Many of us have many different roles we play, right? For example, you can be a housewife and a teacher, right? You can be a dentist and a father, right? So think of which one you want to focus on right now, just for the sake of this activity. What is project-based learning? It's simply another teaching and learning model. There are so many out there, right? This is one of them, right? It's a hands-on and minds-on approach, and I will get into that a little bit more later on. I think ये तो हम करते आए हैं, projects हमने भी बनाए हैं, right? हर class में बनाए ये तो नहीं है, अभी तभी गए गुजरा नहीं था मेरा school, right? Like we all made projects, we all had fun doing that, right? You may even have really good memories, especially with group projects, right? So, for example, typically अगर मैं perimeter सिखाना चाहूँ, right? It's a very linear approach. ये मैं कर चुकी हूँ when I used to be. Back in the day when I used to be a very hardworking teacher, right, at a private school, right? So you have a lesson, the teacher prepares a lesson, you teach that lesson, कुछ worksheets करवाई, फिर review करवाई, फिर test की तैयारी करवाई, right? And we kept the review very focused on the questions that will be on the test, right? And then चलो एक poster भी बना देते हैं, PTM पे काम आएगा, right? It's honest, but that's what I did, right? That's what we did. Now, what project-based learning is asking us to do is make a real-world connection. ठीक है? बस ये आप लोग याद करें, right? If you go away with one thing today, it's about connecting education with the real world. So let's say perimeter सिखाना, ठीक है? So I tried to make this talk for both educators and parents. I know teachers के challenge होता है कि उनको curriculum मिलता है, कुछ standards उन्हें accomplish करने हैं. Right? We do understand, even as homeschooling mothers, right? We follow those standards as well. किसी हद तक हमें follow करने पड़ते हैं. So let's say perimeter, तो I think सबने सिखाना ही है, right? So you start with a problem. How am I going to introduce this topic to my students, right? I invite a guest speaker. By the way, the example I'm giving is a real example. A mentor of mine shared it with me. That's why I'm sharing it. So उन्होंने क्या किया? They invited a guest speaker. The speaker was someone who was in charge of a homeless shelter. ठीक है? It was actually a soup kitchen. I think I'm gonna say it so wrong. Urdu में yes, where they give food, free food to the poor, right? It was a soup kitchen. In America, we call it a soup kitchen. So it was the organizer, the owner of a soup kitchen, right? Achha, how does that relate to perimeter, right? That person is a guest speaker in a math class, right? Why? This is what I do. I feed hungry people. Kids, you know, these are third graders. They were third graders. They're like so impressed because they're so pure at heart. They want to change the world, right? They want to make everybody, you know, happy. They want to share, you know, everything they can with those less fortunate. They really do, right? So the speaker told them that I run this soup kitchen and we need some people to help us out, especially on the weekends, right? We need people to serve the food. So the class ended up taking a field trip to that So they defined a problem, right? And they took a field trip. They're taking the students into the real world, right? They had the chance to volunteer and feed the people, and imagine the impact that would have had on those kids. Imagine उन्होंने क्या सीखा जो हम like it's not tangible, we can't even define it, right? Imagine the values they learned in that field trip, right? Okay, so वापस आके फिर another day of school. Now the speaker comes in, or maybe it was a teacher, I forget which one. But let's say the teacher says, they're reflecting on their experience. Okay, how was it? What did you feel? Right? What did we accomplish? Did it feel good to serve the community? And then the teacher presented another problem. What can we do to give them a source of food that's permanently there, and they don't need to worry about, getting food all the time from other people, right? So they came up with the idea of growing, starting a garden in the area, right? It's like a small vegetable garden. Wonderful. Yeah. The kids are going to plan it, right? Imagine the honor we are giving these kids. Imagine the responsibility, the respect we're giving them at such a young age, right? Now, the teacher says, okay, अब हमने ये garden beds बनाने हैं, इसकी measurements का क्या करें? Can anybody teach me perimeter here? किसी को पता है perimeter क्या होता है? The third graders, they all raise hands. किसी को कुछ नहीं पता होता, but they're still enthusiastic, right? And the teacher says, who can teach us this? All the hands go down. The teacher now steps in as the teacher. Okay, you know what? I can teach you guys perimeter. How different is this from a community leader, teacher, even a student? Or if you want to learn something for yourself, right? I want to do a course or something, but what should I do? Where do I start? Right? This is what we do at Edopia. I'll get to Edopia. We start with the standards of the skills, right? Basically, आपने एक list पहले बनानी है of the skills that you want to teach, right? Like Nosheen said, right? We're gonna focus things, we're gonna make things value-based, skill-based, right? What are the skills that I want to instill in this child, right? To be a really active citizen of the community. Next question might be, okay, skills हमें कहाँ से मिलेंगी? Google, Sundavad, right? Google it. Google the word power standards. ठीक है, power standards, आप फिर specific भी कर सकते हैं. Power standards math, power standards English. Now it's up to you as the facilitator, as the adult, ठीक है? जिसको अल्लाह ताला ने कुछ साल पहले भेज दिया बच्चे से, right? It's not because you're better. It's not because you need more respect. You deserve more respect. No. Okay, it's just सिर्फ ये difference है कि आप कुछ साल पहले आ गए. That's it. Okay, and you have a responsibility. Okay, you are here to share your knowledge and skills with this young child. I think a chief facilitator, how to be that you have, what is something we come back to remind us, oh, this is our purpose, this is our end goal, right? So it must be open-ended, and it should have multiple solutions. It shouldn't be a yes. As architects, how can we help build a kitchen garden? Right? How can you tell which news is real and which is fake? Right? These are all very valuable questions that we can start on right now. We can create a whole unit on them, right? Basically, what's happening is that you're no longer just learning to take a test. That's what it is. It's a whole perspective shift. You're learning to actually find an answer that you are interested in, right? Is your only problem to be shouting, you're working on your own problem, right? What do you want to do? So that, remember, there has to be a purpose. There has to be a purpose. Busy work nahi dena. As a gardener, I will start a neighborhood vegetable garden so our community can grow its own food. Another project all of us can do right now with our kids, right now, right? अपने apartment की उसमें terrace में भी हम कर सकते हैं, right? I get practical. What is it? आप लोग पाकिस्तान में बैठ के Canada के मसले क्यों? Why are you worried about that? Right? Why are you working on their curriculums? Why are you working on their projects? Right? Take care of all of this, right? And that is where structure comes in, right? You make a plan. That's what you do. You make a plan. As unschoolers, there's a very extreme firqa of unschoolers that says no structure, no to structure, right? As a Muslim, I know that's not true because our deen is all about structure, right? So for me, that's actually un-Islamic, right? Structure, if it's done well, it does not kill creativity. ये एक बहुत false notion है. About a blind school, a school for blind learners. I think it was in America. So they had this really open space where the kids could play, right? So break time hota tha, they will go out. So they were blind kids, right? So they didn't feel safe. There's like 2-acre space, open space, right? But the kids didn't feel safe. So they would just go like 200 meters and then just come back, right? So the facilitators kept telling them, Panini, you can go, it's okay, bahut jagah aap log khelo, it's okay, it's safe. Their senses just couldn't accept that. So what one of the facilitators did was, fence laga dete hain. Let's put a fence, right? They put a fence there, and the kids, oh my gosh, they will go all the way there, wapas somersaults karte aa rahe hain, So it made all the difference, right? Again, some structure, some guidelines, the role of a facilitator, right? Which action liye problem aaye, how are we going to solve it? The collective rubric we use in project-based learning, right? It should be presented to the kids from the beginning. Remember, they are part of the project from the beginning till the end. Be very honest with them, right? It should be presented to them from the very beginning. Okay, as you go through the project, you start off with, I need to know this, and then you keep moving it to the other column. Oh, I know this now, right? So they can see, oh, learning is taking place, right? That is also, something tangible to hold on to. Okay. So like Tanya said, it's a success criteria that you're making with the students. आप उनको नहीं बता रहे कि predetermined list है. This is success in my opinion. No, you're not doing that. You're making that criteria with the students. Hopefully mothers are familiar with this. Project-based learning का जब ये word है ना आजकल trendy हुआ है. ठीक है, इससे पहले we used to call them unit studies, right? They're unit studies. एक unit पकड़ा उस पे आपने deep dive किया and that is your project, right? So for example, the classic butterfly unit, right? Try to get books related to that topic. You try to get people who know about it. You try to get an actual butterfly, right? You try to get a caterpillar. So that's what it is. You're picking a specific topic, a driving question, and you're designing a project. Okay, another very important part of project-based learning is tuning in and feedback. All right, so what happens? How do we get feedback on an assignment from a teacher? Aapne assignment kar li. How do you get feedback from a teacher? What usually happens? Remarks, grades, right? Yeah, no, that's like ancient. Let's not do that anymore. Okay, let's not do that anymore. Okay. Even parents, how many feedback is in there?
Like with the comments.
Comments, yeah. ज़्यादातर हमारे वैसे क्या होता है? Suggestions. Oh, you're so nice. You're a nice mom. You're like, oh, I suggest. No, I'm like, really? इसको ऐसे कर लेते हैं ना, बेहतर हो जाता. इसको ऐसे कर लेना. Yeah, right. So it has happened both in school and at home, right? So the feedback should be given in the middle of the projects, not at the end. क्या फायदा आपकी feedback का जब मैं सब कुछ कर ही दिया? Right? Like, well, I feel attacked, right? Okay, 3 minutes, and this is the feedback I get. Okay, well, whatever, right? So it should be given in the middle of the project, right? As you go along, right? It should be something that's very specific, something very, very concrete that is actually going to help them improve the project, right? As a facilitator, again, you can kind of see, you have the advantage to see, okay, maybe like यहाँ पे math की add हो सकती है, right? I can actually put this in, it connects really well. The learner might not be able to see that. So that is your time to kind of sneak it in, right? To tell them, hey, we can actually change it a little bit as well, right? So that's the point of feedback. It has to be, because has anyone seen this picture before? This is really interesting. Yeah, you must have seen that picture. Yes, okay? So this is something that's called Austin's butterfly. It's a feedback method. It was done in America. It was a first grade boy, Austin. And he went to a charter school, which is a very specific school, बहुत skill need-based school hota hai, right? They're focusing on very specific skills with the kids, right? This was the picture they showed him at first, right? They said we are going to do a scientific drawing and scientific imitation of this. Basically, the goal was bilkul exactly as close as possible, right? Because it's scientific, it should be, very close to the real thing, right? So this was Austin's first draft, as you can see. Okay, first grade ka bacha hai. I'm like, oh, it's so cute, right? That's it, but that wasn't the goal, right? The goal is that, right? Bache ko hum ek standard, we're holding the child up to a high standard, right? So his classmates and the teacher, they all gave some feedback, right? The feedback was, as you can see, ways to make them a little pointy. If you add some, make it a little pointy, a little closer, right? You can actually Google it and watch the entire video on this. It's really amazing, really a good learning tool for us, right? But the feedback is so specific, so effective, so respectful. Change nazar aa raha hai. He didn't give up. He kept going. First grader kept going, right? Third draft, fourth draft, fifth draft. Actually, यहाँ पर feedback मिला था after the fourth one. Oh, now you're ready to add in some pattern. Very specific. That was the feedback. Now you can add the pattern of the butterfly. Now you're ready to add the color. Right? If you put this and that side by side, imagine the sense of empowerment this child got. इस बच्चे को कैसे तैयार नहीं कर सकते? No, he's going to have a can-do attitude for the rest of his life. Right? So it depends on the feedback, right? How it's presented. But then, yes, okay.
These illustrators are pretty good about feedback.
And like I said, it was a very special, very skill-focused school. So I'm not too familiar with charter schools myself, but I do know that we have a different it's very skill-based, right? So they're used to this feedback process and everything, right? Yes. Austin's butterfly. Austin's butterfly.
Yes, so I actually grew up in America, basically, and like in public school, for example, like in public school versus charter school, in public school, they could care less.
Oh yeah.
But in charter school, you're right, the kids are different, the skill-based learning is present. So they would actually put in the effort to actually make the feedback and
Exactly. So I think you're more close to vocational schools, right? Yeah, I'm also a product of,
remember
right,
the word
real world, right? So as a facilitator, you along the process, आपने ज़हन में रखना है कि at the end of बच्चों से भी आपने कहना है. They're working. One of the goals is they're working towards the presentation. What they learn, they have to teach it to somebody else. They have to present it to someone else, right? The bottom line for this is that learners are prepared. A sense of responsibility आ जाता है, right? Now there's an audience, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? एक तो होता है कि हम लोग तारीफ के लिए कर रहे हैं, एक empty तारीफ के लिए कर रहे हैं, or just getting the applause or something, just showing off. That's different. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, again, effective feedback, effective presentations, with a purpose behind it, right? And of course, it gives them a chance to really make the effort to master those skills, right? It average level with us, right? You want to aim higher for yourself, have higher standards for yourself, right? As a facilitator, आपने उनको बताना है कि I believe in you. Yeah, I'm sure you are more than competent to present in front of a crowd, right? People can learn from you, right? That is very important, right? If you're at home, right, if you have no audience, again, you're the facilitator, be creative. That's where you need the community, right? And go with your friends, make a party out of it, right? Function is creative process to think and evaluate your work, your own performance, right? Think about the whole process, right? I'm putting that actual busy lifestyle that we don't have the time to think. And that's what's causing so many robots in the making, right? Blind followers, right? You need to allow that time to think and process everything. Right? For example, when we do projects at home, right? हम लोग एक project about water, दूसरा project नहीं शुरू करते. We go on like a vacation, right? Like after project celebration. This is like your celebration day. Like, look what I achieved, right? A sense of accomplishment. It's not all cupcakes and bright colors, right? Yeah, cotton candy's better, yeah. Right? Of course, you're also going to be talking about things that went wrong, right? Again, it's a conversation. That's what basically it is, right? और इसमें फायदा again कुछ फायदा होना चाहिए. Next project पे you try not to make those same mistakes again. There should be an improvement, right? This is an example of there's so many different models of reflection available online. Okay, this is really I like this. It's really simple. The rose, thorn, bud model, right? You're focusing on some positives. You're focusing on you're calling it challenges, not mistakes, right? Because they're not mistakes. You're learning, right? Some mistakes करते हुए भी डरते हैं ना. It was a challenge. I didn't get it. I can get better, right? So you're noting those things down, basically, right? But is my favorite part. It can be really overwhelming because एक चीज आप शुरू करते हो उससे आपको 100 नए ideas आते हैं, right? And that's the best part of this, right? So what are those buds that came out, right? So this is again I just googled it. I was like in reflection for project-based learning and of what wonderful resources Sidr Club is doing, of what Edopia is doing, of what the homeschooling community is doing, is we want to give our children voice and a choice, right? आपको समझना होगा और ये accept करना होगा, that kids are an entire individual on their own. We are not their masters. They already have a master. We are not their masters. Okay, हमें बेहतर नहीं पता, right? Let's admit that to ourselves, right? So instead of the learning happening to the child, beta बैठो, I will tell you what you need to learn, right? You don't know better. No, we are learning with the child, right? कहते real life की preparation करें, real life की prep करें, right? आपने just कहा था कि school में आपके बड़े केशक में हैं, right? Then हम सब के हैं, right? The school didn't teach us this, school didn't teach us this, right? Well, we don't need permission. Let me tell you guys that. You don't need anyone's permission to raise your children the way you think is best. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you those children because He knows you can do it. Right?
Because आपने बच्चों को obviously constraint में नहीं रखा हुआ है. Obviously after crossing age 7 and 10, they're like questioning everything. And at times when you want to discipline them, you are like, इतना ज़्यादा आप बताओ, इसका हाथ चल रहा है. Fact, अब इस तरह से होता है कि आपकी अपनी पर्सनल स्पेस की चैलेंज होनी शुरू हो गई कि नहीं हमें कमरे में अकेले नहीं सोना, आपको आना है. तो ये चीज़ बहुत at times dilemma बन जाती है कि कहाँ पे आपको choice लेनी है और कहाँ आपको discipline करनी है.
Exactly. मैं भी यही कहने वाली थी कि अगर if you are अगर ये words आपको बड़ा डराते हैं ना, if you're okay, that's good, they should, it's scary, मैं बड़ी confidently कह रही हूँ इधर, but as a mother, I'm just like, oh, like I don't want to give her a choice in this matter, right? It happens to all of us, but think the balance हमें सीखना है, right? That the learner voice means allowing them to be heard. If it's आपकी बात को मैंने importance दिया, मैंने सुन लिया, it doesn't mean I'm going to agree with it. Right? The real world is not like that, is it? Right? आप अम्मा के लाड में हो, दुनिया के लाड में नहीं हो, right? You're actually giving them, teaching them a huge life lesson from an early age by treating them as a person who is able to make decisions, who you can disagree with, right? How do you do that? It matters. That's what matters, right? The how, उसमें हमें training चाहिए. That's it. We do need training for this, right? We need to learn. उसके लिए आपको mentors चाहिए, courses चाहिए. उन लोगों को ढूंढे जो अच्छी job, like they're doing a better job, right? There might be a mess in another area, right? No one's perfect. Please remember that, right? There might be a mess in another area, but in this area, they're doing a really good job. Now that's one point, right? Sohbat, it's all about sohbat, right? So you're giving them, बच्चों को भी आप थोड़ी सुन रहे हैं, थोड़ी अपनी भी आप कह रहे हैं. It's a constant conversation, right? जहाँ तक learning की बात है, we're talking about learning. You do want them to have a sense of control over what they're learning. इससे आपके बहुत से issues clear हो जाएंगे. How many of you have heard of it? It's Edopia. It's a Islamabad, by the way. Okay. Okay, so Edopia is a school. मेरी बड़ी बेटी है. She's almost 12 now. When she was like a toddler, Gujamala ne baithe hue the, and no, that's not that the math doesn't add up. Okay, so Edopia is 8 years old, so just stage mein meri bachi thi. I remember that she was I found this school and I was like, okay, this is the school I want to send her to, right? I didn't really know a lot about homeschooling at that time. And I basically said, oh, I want her, बहुत मैंने सोचा, if I'm in India, I'm gonna make it happen, चाहे जितना भी है, whatever, right? Edopia is Pakistan's first democratic school, right? It is something of an experiment that turned out to be a success, right? The owner is super young, she's graduated from Harvard, and I'm not saying that to impress anybody, but Harvard right now is doing a lot of good work, research work in the field of education. They're changing things as we know it, right? So what she did was completely point vision hai. The same values we all share here, right? It started with the values, like Nausheen is doing, right? She wanted to instill these values in society, and she decided to do this through, Allah Ta'ala ki faisla, He uses people, right, to serve the community. So I think it's like 8 or 9 years old now, and it's in Bani Galas. If you guys do go to Islamabad, do visit it. It's a very, there's no bells, there's, open space, limited desks, a lot of freedom to move, but you have baki permission nahi mangte. Very, in like real life, just having a workspace would be. Like your workspace, it's very restrictive. This place is also restrictive, right? It's more of a family. They really pride themselves, and I think they're truly going to work.